Good afternoon or morning, everybody, and welcome back to another weather forecast here by Agents Weather Forecast. And this is going to be a video here on tracking the severe weather across the south, central, and as well portions of the Ohio Valley, as we are watching for very favorable conditions for severe weather coming with the shear, the instability from the cold front and warm fronts meeting as well watching those really high temperatures across portions of the south to bring in high Cape Valley. So that's exactly why we're seeing some very strong systems developing severe weather-wise, and we have already seen some significant hail, and I believe we've already had a tornado so far today. But we're going to be watching the severe weather, seeing what is to come and who can get the worst severe weather between now and this evening, as well watching where the worst will develop, when the worst ones will develop, and as well where we can possibly see these severe thunderstorm warnings and etc. But before we get in the video, let's go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already done so. As well, hit the bell icon if you want to get notified as soon as I do a video, and hit the like button so I know you guys enjoy content like this. But without further ado, let's get in the forecast. So this is a look at the latest National Weather Service update here, and as you see, we do have severe thunderstorm watches across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and they should extend into Louisiana by later today. But the big, really widespread threat today is going to be the flooding. We have flash flood watches in those dark green counties stretching from Louisiana all the way up to Pennsylvania. So kind of more in these northern areas right here where we have as well some flash flood warnings. That's we're going to kind of be seeing just the heavy rain. But in these areas right here, we're going to be seeing kind of more of some extreme thunderstorms. So we will have heavy rain. However, the heaviest and I guess the most rain will kind of stick around for the next few hours in these areas, specifically across northern Tennessee all the way up to portions of the Ohio Valley. So in these light green colors, we have flash flood warnings, and that has to take part because of the not only high elevations, so we have multiple valleys where that rain could be a lot heavier. And I guess that rain really just kind of piling up in those areas, but as well because of the Ohio River Valley, but as well flash flood warnings across portions of southern Kentucky, where we have already seen 3 to 4 inches of rain since today has started, and I do expect these flash flood watches to extend more to the east, including Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and as well further into Virginia as the storms go throughout this evening and then go as well into tomorrow. But let's go ahead and take a look at the day one outlook. So this is looking at the day one outlook, and as you see, we have a very widespread slight risk. Again, a level 2 out of 5 it's still obviously not extremely dangerous. However, we are seeing a very widespread area, and we are seeing as well a 5% chance of tornadoes. So definitely alarming here, but it won't be a tornado outbreak or anything like that. But a slight risk has been issued for about 15.4 million people, including Dallas, Texas, Memphis, Fort Worth, Nashville, and Arlington. So and if you're in that yellow, you are under the highest risk for today, and that's including mainly the hail and tornadoes, not really the extreme winds. However, we will be seeing some gusty winds with these strong thunderstorms. We have already seen 50 or 60, but those will be a lot less widespread than the hail. But we do have as well a pretty widespread area for a 5% chance of tornadoes, so definitely got to watch out in general. And then we have a widespread marginal. This marginal is kind of more in place, kind of more towards, I guess, the hail, not really the tornadoes in general. However, we're really watching out for some very widespread hail that is over half an inch and even getting up to areas like an inch we have already seen so far. But this is the general risk that we have, so really watching out for Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, and as well portions of Mississippi. The tornado risk there, it is at a 5% chance. That's kind of exactly the almost exact areas where we have these slight risks. You can kind of see really watching out for these areas. Let's go ahead and compare. You can kind of see many of those areas in tornado risk are, or in this slight risk, are mainly because tornadoes. However, we also do have a wind threat, which is actually taking up all that slight risk. So we do have a slight risk for winds, and that is 15% chance. There you go. You got that slight risk, and then you got the marginal risk right here. So we have a very widespread 50% chance, 50% chance. Obviously, it's a moderate wind threat. However, these gusty winds won't be really for everyone. I'm really watching at the hail, and as well, the winds will actually be quite dangerous as well and very gusty. These storms will be moving quite quickly. But we actually have a significant severe risk for hail. Like I did say, we are really watching for a larger hail threat, and that's going to kind of stay more towards the south central and the southern plains. We will see some spotty hail across these areas later today. However, the biggest threat for hail today is where we have those higher Cape values and a lot more shear and a lot more instability in general, and that's exactly why we have a slight risk in these areas across Texas. A 15% chance, significant risk for hail. That SIDGE includes Dallas, Plano, Garland, Irving, Texas, and Mesquite, which includes actually around 4.6 million people. And then the 15% chance in general, we have about 7.5 million people. And then, of course, we have a 5% chance as well for those winds. We're not just watching as well the threats for not for the hail, tornadoes, and winds. We're also watching a big flooding threat. This does have to do really the severe weather mainly. However, it's going to kind of be less severe weather once you are in this red. So if you're in this moderate risk, that is a 20 to 50% chance for excessive rainfall and extreme flooding here. So that's including much of Kentucky, portions of West Virginia, and you can kind of see it's many of those areas that we either have a flash flood watch or flash flood warnings, of course, in southern Kentucky, or those flood warnings there across the Ohio Valley. So we have a very widespread threat, marginal, by the 10% chance all the way from Texas there. And you can kind of see the areas that are going to kind of get the worst severe weather, or that are getting the worst severe weather right now, specifically like Texas, they're under a marginal because really that severe weather is not going to be extremely big or flooding like where it's a lot colder. In Kentucky, only seeing some 60s, and upper Virginia near some 50s. So really, it's going to be more flooding and a lot less severe weather. Obviously, a lot less hail when you go to West Virginia, but northern Tennessee and portions of Kentucky, these areas are actually going to be seeing some significant severe weather today. However, they're going to be seeing extremely widespread rain as well in general. So really watching out for these areas. They get some significant flooding here, and then a slight risk. That is a 10 to 20% chance there, and that's where we're seeing a widespread all the way up to areas like the Mississippi River and as well portions of the Ohio River Valley. As of what we have so far, we only have around 3 hail reports. You can kind of see it's pretty close to those significant areas there. And in order to get a hail report, it must be 2 inches plus in diameter. So we have had a lot more hail reports across these areas, but they have been less than 2 inches. They've kind of been more half an inch to an inch. And if we already had a wind report there, you kind of see the winds are going to kind of be more widespread towards Kentucky. So in these areas, we're really watching out for the flooding and winds, and these areas really watching for the hail. So we kind of have our spotty areas as these storms kind of develop, or they just weaken here. But I do believe we have had already a tornado report today, and I do expect that to be issued here on the report so far. But let's go ahead and take a look at the future conditions and where you can be seeing the most favorable conditions for these severe weather to develop and where they will be in place by this evening. So, of course, we all know that shear is very favorable for severe weather development here, unlike this tropics. So you can kind of see we are having a big area of extreme shear. You got that, you kind of have that jet stream there coming in, and that's going to allow for extreme severe weather to develop. We saw kind of last night, we saw the severe weather really developing across the southern plains, and that it has to be results because not only the Cape values were really high because of the warm temperatures, but because of the shear. And that's going to continue to be a big threat later today here. You can kind of see as the shear moves eastward, that development for severe weather will also start to move eastward into Tennessee now, Kentucky. So that we have a ton of shear here, extreme amounts of shear, up to I believe 135 miles an hour in the highest atmosphere there. So we're really watching. Sorry, this is actually 154 knots. This is actually knots. 154 knots and the highest atmosphere. So that's pretty favorable for severe weather development here. But that's kind of one reason why we're seeing that extreme severe weather today. But in the next few hours, you can kind of see these storms will start to develop once again. The evening tends to be the worst time of day to have severe weather. That's when the storms are strongest. And the reasoning is because by the evening, you have a whole day of Cape values, or sorry, not a whole day of Cape values, a whole day of a very warm sun and a ton of energy, and that's going to be allowing for all those hours of really warm temperatures to pile up into very high Cape values, and that's exactly why these storms will start to develop and become severe once again. We saw extreme severe weather late this morning across the Dallas region in Texas and Oklahoma, and it's going to start once again later this evening into tonight, when these storms will continue to develop because of those higher Cape values. So watching Tyler, Texas, Texarkana, again, really watching for hail in these areas, really watching for hail in these areas, and then kind of really watching for wind and big time flooding across these areas. You can kind of see though, it's going to be a lot more widespread rain more to the north, but kind of more towards some small little systems of severe weather. And that's exactly why we have only a marginal for flooding today across the south central, but kind of a moderate there in the upper Ohio Valley. But later tomorrow, it's kind of become a little bit less of a severe weather threat and kind of more towards extremely heavy rain, a few thunderstorms, but they really won't be too severe. Tornado, they really won't be producing tornadoes, at least what I know now. But that's going to continue to be a threat to tomorrow, the flooding wise, and as well with some hail. So again, where we're going to be really watching out for the severe weather and flooding in these areas. So we've already seen kind of some severe storms throughout the day, specifically across western Tennessee here. That's kind of where we've already seen there's really strong storms so far today. We've had quite a few severe thunderstorm warnings and large hail reported, but as we go later tonight, these storms will continue to become more severe. Really watching for areas like Bowling Green, really watching as well in areas in far western Tennessee, bordering Missouri and Arkansas there, and you kind of see these storms going to get really, really severe. This is kind of where we're watching for the severe thunderstorms, and outside in these areas, we're kind of really watching out for mainly flooding. So this is kind of be really flooding, and then that's exactly why we have those flash flood warnings and watches north of this Nashville region, or I guess those flash flood warnings are north, but we have Nashville still under flash flood watch. But right here, we're really watching for the T storms. Really, that's kind of where we're seeing the big T storms, and kind of to the north, really watching for more of that flooding. That's because we will be seeing, I guess, a lot of shear in that region at that time, and as well, it's going to be colder. Obviously, temperatures will be a lot colder. And then this, as we go overnight, the Cape kind of really dies off. These storms will just become regular rain showers, which is going to be leading to some more and more heavy rain across the south. Cape valleys will be very high according to the HRRR here, which goes 18 hours out in the next hour. So they are predicting a max 2,900 joules per kilogram across portions of Texas. It's going to be some spotty areas. Just because you have high Cape valleys doesn't mean there's going to be extreme storms. For example, we're not going to be seeing too many storms today across southern or southwestern Texas. However, we're going to be seeing some big time severe weather across these areas throughout the day. And that's really because we have all that moisture coming in hand. They kind of have that Gulf moisture really kicking in across these areas. You got that cold front kind of right here. You kind of get the little cold front little over there, high pressure way up in the plains. So that's going to bring the eyes on these areas right here. But in the next few hours, the HRRR actually gets really high Cape values, up to 3,268 joules per kilogram here. That's actually pretty high Cape values. Anything really near 3,500 or above is pretty high. So this is pretty decent for the last day of February. I mean, we're talking still winter here, and as well, this Cape will continue to start becoming more spotty across these areas of Arkansas and Mississippi there, where we can get over 2,500 joules per kilogram. And then the HRRR actually gets it to 3,400 joules per kilogram. And that's exactly what we're really watching for, a significant risk there for extreme hail over 2 inches diameter. And then as we get overnight, those storms will kind of really die off intensity because of the Cape. So again, next 6 hours, we're really getting that really highest Cape values as the sun is finally going down, but we had a whole day of that warm weather, so it's going to be really allowing for that severe weather to really ramp up across northern Tennessee there, not northern Tennessee, northern Mississippi, portion of western Tennessee there, and that's just going to die off that Cape values there. And last but not least, looking at the SCP or Supercell composite parameter, and as you see, anything really, you got 0.1 all the way up to 35 there or above, so anything kind of in this general region is pretty good. A pretty decent chance for supercells. And of course, supercells, they are kind of the ones that produce those tornadoes and extreme hail there. So we got a 10.5 reading there in far western Tennessee in the next few hours here. And then it gets even higher there, getting some spotty areas up to a 17.1 right here, getting there 16 right there. So going to see some spotty areas, but you may see some supercells. So got to really watch out if you're in the Nashville region, if you're in southern Arkansas, and really watching as well if you're in northwestern or just northern Mississippi in general, because we will get our highest reading today according to the HRRR at 18 here. So really watching out for these supercells, and then they drastically die off by the next 10 hours. But hope you guys enjoyed the video, and see you guys later.